Welcome, one and all, to the Lame Design Conference, where in each edition my esteemed guest and I will take turns in attempting to pitch the worst possible video game to you, the fans at home, whilst a professional graphic designer and artist illustrates said pitches over our inane ramblings. The contestant who can pitch the stupider, more diabolically unenjoyable game will be crowned the winner by you, the audience, via a poll that will be linked in this video's pinned comment and active for a week after the video's release. If the winner is my guest, they'll be placed into the Hall of Lame at the end of the following episode. And if the winner is me, I'll go out and buy myself a milkshake and look very smug about it. Let's meet today's contestant. Gamers and fellow non-subhuman lifeforms, welcome back to another thrilling installment of the Lame Design Conference here at Hard Drive HQ, by which I mean my small, sad little flat in Reading, England, where you have to pull the light switch 3 times to turn it on. I am your host, as always, Fudj, and today I am joined by a scrupulous skeleton, you might say, a fighting aficionado, perhaps even an extraordinaire of alliteration. Matt McMuscles, how's it going, Matt?
Good evening, Mr. Fudjicle. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing much better by your presence. Thank you very much, because it was a long road to get here. I have something I'm going to spring on you in a minute, but first of all, I wanted to say, obviously, you've been doing this YouTube thing for a while.
I have.
And I discovered you through What Happened, which is one of my favourite series on YouTube. I just watched the GameCube episode not long ago. I thought it was cool. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Are you one of those people that are like, how dare you speak facts about the GameCube, or are you, I love the GameCube, but this is all true?
No, well, so I'm like, not trying to like flex too hard, but I'm like pretty young in the grand spectrum of like YouTube gamer discourse. Like the GameCube came out when I was 4 or 5.
Okay, fair.
And I did, it was my first Nintendo console and I fucking loved it, and I never saw any problem with it, and only in the years since have I learned that it didn't do too well, which makes me sad, but also like, I don't really have a place to say, because I was bumping into walls and shitting myself still when that console was around. I don't fucking know. I just believe what you tell me.
Because for me to make a video like that, like, I was a GameCube warrior. Yeah. Like, I would fight people in comment sections, be like, shut up, it's the best, it has the best fighting games. And someone would be like, it has 0 fighting games. I'm like, it's got Soul Calibur, Link's in Soul Calibur 2. Yeah. And then I would just run away because I couldn't handle facts back then. So it was kind of funny making it again, but it's still interesting to see how many people are like, okay, yeah, this is all true, but I still loved the console so much back in the day. But it just seems to be relegated to that corner of the internet, whereas like everyone's like, I never even saw any of my friends own a PS2. The PS2 couldn't possibly have sold that much. I'm like, you're talking about your circle of like 5 friends, sir. I don't think that's the biggest sort of litmus test to judge it on. So it's just kind of funny seeing all those reactions.
I do have to just apologise real quick if my blur continues throughout the video. Consider it visual heat waves from Britain right now, from how hot it is. It's a sauna in here. That's what explains it, because I don't know. It's just going to do that. Sorry, my webcam's a piece of shit. But yeah, you're totally right. People get so caught up in their circle jerks. Obviously, I do video stuff for Hard Drive, but I was I did YouTube by myself first, and I made a video on Pokemon Black and White and why I didn't like those games very much when that came out, and like, it's not a great video. I'm not particularly proud of it, but people get pissed when you. I mean, it's not news, you know. People get really circle jerky about the shit they like on the internet, but yeah, I know that feeling all too well of people just jumping down your throat just because you don't like the thing they don't like, and just completely foregoing any logical reason.
Yeah, but it even extends into like, you're not even talking shit about the thing. Like, you're like, no, these are the facts of the situation. Like, I don't think in that video,
right?
Yeah, I don't think in that video once I'm like, the GameCube was bad. I'm like, I don't say that. I haven't said anything like that in What Happened, like, for like several years, because the first couple episodes I was like, no, this game is a piece of shit. BMX Triple X or whatever it may be, or the Guy game, for example. But after that, you kind of just go, well, you know, it's better to err on the side of, these are just the facts of the situation. The game sold poorly, the game reviewed poorly, whatever it may be, but people sometimes still won't. They'll only see the broader strokes of your video, not listen to like the details of what you're saying. I'm just laying out what happened here. That's the name of the show. Like, I'm not saying why I hate this. It's not.
No.
There's so many of those videos on the internet. People just kind of clump them all together.
It happens everywhere. Like, it literally happens in like journalism and reporting. Like, I remember people talking about how like Elden Ring had been inspired by Breath of the Wild, and people got so randomly fucking up in the arms about that. Like, how could you possibly say these things? Or like, there's no way they took ideas from Breath of the Wild. FromSoft did their own perfect, unique, beautiful little snowflake. And then Miyazaki came out like a year later and was like, yeah, we totally took inspiration from Breath of the Wild. Of course we did. Of course they did. It was so fucking obvious, you know?
And then they're like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah. How can you say that? It's not even an insult, you know what I mean? It's just an obvious fact if you use your fucking eyes. Anyway, yeah, I found you through what happened, but I also know you as an aficionado of particularly bad games and media. And
Yes, yeah.
when looking for guests for the series, I'm looking for someone who can simultaneously, have some decorum in a video call, but also activate chaotic fucking idiot mode at any point. So I singled you out.
I don't have any other mode, unfortunately. So
Bad games is kind of your thing, and I dare say you've committed to the bit of bad games more than almost anyone. You've been playing proper pieces of shit for some time now. How are you still in one piece and sane? Well, I guess you're not.
I would say because there's just as many good games that get released alongside them. Random people, you'll see the weird take of 2023 has been like the worst year ever for video games, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I cannot keep up with all the good games that are coming out. Like, even smaller ones. I'm not even counting like, the newest Final Fantasy or the newest, Street Fighter. I like those, and I'm playing Street Fighter. But then there's smaller things, like there's that new Double Dragon that's coming out that I'm really looking forward to. There was like Vengeance Rider, Moonrider. It's that like cyber ninja indie game that's like a 2D platformer. It was really good. Barely anybody played it, but like I thought it was game of the year material and stuff like that. So there's bad stuff.
I heard about this.
Vengeance Warrior Moonrider. Anyway, it's made from the group that made Blazing Chrome and Odalis and Oniken, all those indie kind of send-up games. So whenever I'm talking about bad stuff, I can just disengage from my computer and like go and play one of like my giant backlog that is still filled with things that I haven't finished, and it's all good stuff, and I want to finish them. I never finished Hi-Fi Rush, and I have no reason to have not finished it. I just got busy, so everything gets balanced out between the good and the bad.
It's a balanced diet.
And yeah, exactly. You have to keep a balanced diet. That's how you stay sane.
Yeah. I was literally just about to bring up Hi-Fi Rush. It's like probably my game of the year so far. So
and it probably will be for mine. And it's like, no, I haven't even booted Zelda. Like, I haven't even booted it.
Wow, that's fucked.
And I'm probably not going to, because now it's so intimidating of a prospect. I bought it, but like I don't know when I'll have the time to commit, because I'm like, it has to be at least 40 hours. So I don't know if I'll have the time.
Well, if you got the balls to come on the Lane Design Conference and face off against me, Matt, I think you can dive back into Hyrule, no problem. Not to flex too hard, but I've got a 1 and 2 record right now.
Okay.
Fucking Dave Oshry showed up last time. Literally forgot what the guy from New Blood. I'm calling you out, Dave Oshry. Showed up last time. Didn't actually know what the show was about. Didn't have a pitch plan. Won anyway. I'm pissed.
But that's the most Dave thing that Dave has ever Dave.
Yes.
Like, I think a couple of packs, like several years ago, like 5 years ago, I was pitching a game to him, like a good game that I was putting all into helping to produce. And he was like, yeah, it's no. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then a couple of years, he's like, hey, how'd that loser game you made? I'm like, yeah, we released it. Came out on all consoles. There was a limited run version of it. And he's like, oh, that's cool.
That fucking guy.
No, I love Dave.
Showed up last time, no plan, called Gabe Newell a cunt, made a bunch of jokes about Mr. Beast and cunt, and then won. I'm going to spring something on you real quick, Matt.
Sure.
You're based in Canada, right?
Unfortunately.
I need to know something really important. Are you familiar with a show called Coronation Street?
Yes, I am.
What the fuck?
British institution, I know, but our Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC, always played it, and that's when you knew the fun of your day was over. As a kid, because it would come on at like noon or like 12:30, so you knew cartoons were over, and then you knew the British were coming. And I had to deal with this for a while, and then I was like, I need to just walk away from the TV because I had no idea what was going on.
That farty fucking tuba theme. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's how you're like, okay, it's time for bed.
Yeah.
No, there's no fun to be had here. I got told by a Canadian friend not long ago that Coronation Street is huge in Canada, and I didn't believe him. I thought he was fucking with me. Because Coronation Street is the most, like, you know, it's the boomer soap that comes on 7:30 every night. It's boring as shit. You know, all the worst people in society in our country watch Coronation Street. He told me it's so big in Canada, they have merch in gas stations, and I don't fucking believe him.
I've never seen that. I wouldn't even say it like... I haven't watched like TV except when I go to the States in a hotel room, so I don't know what TV is like anymore. But it would play only on the CBC, so it's only basically one channel, and it would play consistently, like for years for sure. But I wouldn't say merch. Maybe merch is a thing now, but it was still like, what's less than an institution? Like, is there a lesser step than that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a
phenomenon,
cultural touchstone. That's too big,
cultural touchstone. Anyway, so it was definitely there. Like, but that's the only British show I remember. Like, was being. So why? They must have had some sort of deal or something to just because it's really, really popular. Or at least it was really, really popular in the UK, right?
Yeah, it is.
So maybe they just took that as a sign. And Canada's like, well, we have, you know, there's British roots in Canada all throughout it, so why not just play it, you know?
I was going to say, King Charles's coronation was not long ago, and I did in fact see the Canadian flag lined up in the little Commonwealth state thing, and stark reminder that we do in fact own you motherfuckers.
We also own the U.S. in the sense that we have such better taste in candy. You have Coffee Crisp. We have Coffee Crisp. The States does not have Coffee Crisp, which always blows my mind because it's such a fucking top tier candy bar.
I'm not even familiar with Coffee Crisp, but
really?
No, I've actually never even heard of it. So I think
maybe
you're gaslighting me, Matt McMuscles.
No, I don't. I'm gaslighting myself into thinking.
Mansplained and manipulated right now.
I know. I'm almost positive.
You might be thinking of Toffee Crisp.
No,
but I think coffee. No, I'm not afraid.
All right, we'll have to have someone fact check later.
Our most well-known export is Lion Bars. I always get Americans talking about Lion Bars. I've got to bring Lion.
Yeah,
Bars
we get Lion Bars, but only in specialty shops that import. Like it's not like a normal thing, and it's just like, is this made out of lions? What is this?
That would be your first thought, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It would.
So, Matt, it is show tradition that I ask my guests for a fun fact about themselves. Can you blow my goddamn mind right now with the funnest fact I ever did here?
All right, so in 2001, you're only 4. But are you familiar with a TV
9/11.
show?
Yes, I heard about it.
Are you familiar with an anime called Dragon Ball Z, perchance?
Oh, unfortunately, don't even get me fucking started. You gotta take this away because I'll go on a mega rant. But yeah, okay, go for it.
Do you remember in the mid-2000s there was a famous clip, like basically a YouTube poop of Dragon Ball, where Vegeta would always yell, "It's over 9,000."
Yes, I do.
You're familiar with this.
Yes.
Now I'm not gonna be so grandiose to say I created that. No, not that at all. But there was a DS game for Dragon Ball called Dragon Ball Harukanaru Densetsu. And it was a card-based game where you went around the map and you flipped over cards, and they did attack or did defense, and basically recapped all of Dragon Ball, the first 2 or 3 sagas.
And a card game.
Yeah, it's a card game where it's like it was our RPG, but the battling was done with just cards.
Yeah,
and you just moved around a like Mario Brothers 3 style map. And I did QA for various titles from like 2004 to like 2013. And I was in charge of testing this Dragon Ball game for quite a while. For some reason, they decided, hey, just take the script, for this game, and then you fix any errors you want in it. Which very, very rarely, if ever, happens that you give that amount of responsibility to like a random testing group.
That feels very lenient. I guess they couldn't afford the localization department, or
exactly. We're not the localization department. We're contracted to fix any mistakes. But then they said, "Oh, you know, whatever, go at it." So like you'd see some errors like Goku saying, "What are we going?" Which like breaks your head a little bit.
I can believe that's real Dragon Ball Z dialogue.
So the other thing I couldn't believe is that there's a bit of dialogue where Vegeta is checking out said person's power level, and then someone says, "Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level?"
Yeah,
and he says in the game, he says, "It's around 300," and I, since it was so popular at the time, went, "No, it's not. That's incorrect." And I just put in there, "It's over 9,000, couple of exclamation marks. And then 3 builds later, it was in the game. I didn't make a bug. I didn't tell anybody this. They just gave us the raw text strings, like all the code for the text, and just said, you know, whatever. I just made that alteration, and I think that's still in there to this day. I'm all 99% sure positive. I even have a hard copy of the game, but you need to play it like 10 hours to even get to that part, which I'm not doing. But the last time I saw that, so that is my small contribution to Dragon Ball video games right there.
This is that meme of that guy laying down the dominoes, and it's like Matt changes one line of dialogue in a DS game. It's over 9,000 becomes one of the most iconic internet memes of all time.
I'm convinced that at least gave it 1 or 2 more points than normal in reviews of the day. Like they said, "Oh, that line's in the game. Give it like 2 extra points." So
yeah,
you're welcome, Infogrames.
We can say that you're not quite an institution, but a cultural touchstone in.
You could say that
in the over 9,000.
I'm the Coronation Street of YouTube. Yes,
I'm the Dark Souls of Coronation Street of DS Dragon Ball Z. Quick question: you said that line isn't for like 10 hours into the game and you didn't want to play it. Is that because the game is bad? And if so, why did you do such a bad job as a QA tester? Then why is it bad? Why isn't it better?
You know what? I don't really have an answer as to why I didn't fix it. Now it's
too
like
busy making memes.
A legit answer is that the game is just so long to play. Like, the battling just takes a long time. It's not an action game. It's a card-based RPG, so even to get there, it takes quite a while. And there's a sense of luck to it. Like, you can just get killed and there's nothing you can do about it, because that's how card-based games work a lot of the time.
Hey, overly long battles, completely devoid of logic, wonky dialogue, that's Dragon Ball. Anyway, let's get into the main show. Matt, do you have a preference for who presents their pitch first today?
I would like to hear yours, Mr. Fudj.
Okay, I'm way ahead of you. I'm just gonna pop open my notes real quick, make sure this is quite a pretty quick fire one here. Oh, by the way, our illustrator is called Cheesy. If you have any demands for the illustration, just tell Cheesy to do it. It's great. He just does it because he's a little freak, and if he doesn't do what we ask, I shout at him really loudly, and he cries, and then he does it. So. We'll look into hard drive working conditions for you there. Okay. This game was largely inspired by a conversation I had with my dad a couple of days ago. My dad, I won't go on too long. I would describe him as a character, and I would describe talking to him as being a bit like a mini game.
Okay.
And this kind of stuff is popping off a little bit lately, you know. They're doing everybody's 1-2 switch. Can you believe that's an actual fucking thing? They're actually doing it. They're doing everybody's 1-2 switch. Also, 2 WarioWare games in 2 years. You know, get
more
it
than you need
in 2021, and this new one, 2023, whatever it's called. I can't remember. It's, Move It. Or something.
Neither.
So. I'm presenting to you today my pitch, because this kind of thing is pretty in right now. It's called Millennial Micro Games. It is a micro game collection in which this will never be communicated to the player. The player will never have any idea. A vast majority of the micro games in this collection, I'm going to say somewhere about 95%, are entirely unwinnable. But they're kind of WarioWare-like in concept, but they're supposed to emulate the millennial experience, you know? So, Cheesy, I'm going to rapid fire some micro games for you right now. Cheesy, you draw whichever one of these ones you want, okay? save the environment. You know, big prompt comes up, save the environment, exclamation mark. You have to throw a can into a bin. Pretty simple stuff. Unfortunately, even if you get the can in the bin, the words failure come up on screen, and a voiceover says failure because a billionaire fires a private jet right over you in the moments after.
Pretty good.
Get healthy. You're in hospital. You've got a glass of water next to you, and you, as the player, have to pick up the glass of water and pour it down the guy's mouth. And even if you do that perfectly efficiently, get all the water in his mouth, the word die comes up on screen in all caps. Voiceover says die, and then a $50 million medical bill pops up on screen promptly after. Other ones, try not to go broke. It's a fast food. You're at a fast food restaurant. You've got a bunch of food laid out on a table in front of you. You got a burger. You got a milkshake. You got some fries. You got to pick an option to not starve. The only way to win that minigame is to pick the table and take a bite out of the table, and then go home. You're free food, technically. I got two more that I've written down. Hang on. Oh, here we go. This is where my dad comes in. An argument with your parents minigame that is fashioned in the style of a card game. It tells you to pick a card to win the argument. You have logic, reason, and valid criticism. And whichever card you pick, you lose, because the opponent plays the I raised you card.
I just got told that a couple of weeks ago. Not in a mean way, but my mom said something akin to this, and I was like, okay, Mom, all right.
Okay, you win. Congratulations. Uno reverse. Very well played. Very skilled. Very skilled, mother.
Like, I raised you. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, well done. That would not be a promotion at your job, mother. You get the same pay.
This has turned into an episode of Coronation Street all of a sudden.
And finally, relax. A minigame where you're given the option to watch a show from one of various streaming services, choosing any of which has the word cancelled come up on screen. If you choose not to watch TV, you also fail, and the game instead says depression, in brackets, the thoughts won.
It was your fault this failed. I'm watching it.
Yeah. Streaming services.
I'm the last person. Yeah. No, we're
more like steaming services, because they get me steaming mad. Hey.
There's something recently too that I saw that got canceled. And I'm like, oh no! Now I forget what it is because I can't keep up with what's being canceled. So.
I got really into Mindhunter. Don't know if you've seen Mindhunter.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Mindhunter was awesome.
And they're just like, we just don't want to anymore. Like, we could make it work, but it's just going to be so expensive. We just don't want to.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's not done.
You're like, it's like cancelling a YouTube series like 4 episodes in. That's what it is. You expect it to go off the fucking rails immediately. It's not gonna. You got to build that shit up over time. You got to have some fucking patience, have some trust in your content to hold people over a long period.
And I saw that Shyamalan movie, Knock at the Cabin.
I wanted to see that.
And I'm watching it, and the main one of the two main leads is like the main investigator, the younger one from Mindhunter,
Jonathan Groff.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, why do I know, and I don't want to open up IMDb. I try not to. I try to like win by myself without like a cheat sheet. And I'm like, Mindhunter! And then I got mad about Mindhunter again.
It's John Mindhunter.
It's Johnny Mindhunter. He fights Johnny Mnemonic.
So in millennial microgames, there's also a single player and a multiplayer component. Obviously, the microgames are a single player and multiplayer, but there's dedicated modes for single player and multiplayer. Inspired by WarioWare Get It Together, which had some single player and multiplayer modes. The single player is a bit of a lengthy description, so I'm going to need to refer to my notes on this. There's a single player campaign called Woke Warriors, where you have to cancel a series of increasingly powerful online figures, ranging from politicians to comedians to, yes, YouTubers. You're given a collection of phrases to use to at them with and end their careers forever. The correct answer to every opponent is, quote, your mom gay. With the exception of the final boss, Prince Mandrew, for whom you use the phrase nonce and drive your home country into a civil war from which you prevail as the winner and are crowned the king or queen of cancel culture.
So you know when you die in Mario 64 and there's like the silhouette of Bowser's like picture? It should be the woke boogeyman that closes in when someone's been canceled.
Who is the woke boogeyman, Matt? What is the woke boogeyman?
No one knows what he looks like.
He's like Antifa, is he? Another one of those fucking Western myths.
He's unknowable. He's Lovecraftian in his design. No one can fathom what he looks like because he doesn't exist.
And also, finally, my kicker is that there is an online multiplayer mode, and this is meant to really emulate the modern millennial experience. I still fucked up that word. This is really meant to encapsulate the modern anemone experience when you and your opponent are matched up to see who can fill out an entirely realistic tax form the fastest. You have to look at bank transactions and business expenses and read a whole ton of legal tender to make the correct calculations. Any slight error sees your character sent to jail for life.
Like it's Monopoly, like sent to jail, like picture, where he's like behind bars. Okay.
And as YouTubers, as people who are self-employed, I think we both have to do our own taxes, right? And we can attest that it's the fucking worst.
No, there's something that's worse, which is getting a mortgage. That is harder than taxes because you have to sit there physically with a person who's going to be older than you. And
already.
Like to get ours, like it took multiple in-person meetings and multiple phone calls saying, "Can you explain your business again?" Like, because even if the person you're talking to finally gets it, which they should after enough time, they have to then repeat it to their bosses.
Yeah.
And they, like, a question will trickle down, like, no, like, he reviews what? Deadly premonition? What are you talking about? Like it happened, it occurred, so I'm glad. But at the same time, I was like, this is ridiculous, the amount of times I have to keep saying what this is. And it's not like AVGN just started doing reviews for the first time like 2 years ago, and everyone else started to do the same thing. Like, it's been 15 years. Are we not there yet? I guess we're not.
I'm imagining someone being like, "Can you explain your job to me again?" And you bust out an N64 and being like, "This is Transformers Beast Wars Trans Mode." Okay? Pop it in, grab a controller.
Released in 1999 by two companies, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, like, I would love to do that, and they go, "Gotcha."
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, Transformers Beast Wars, that game fucking sucks.
Yeah. But no, it's I
Say
think,
no more.
This is my favorite mini game described thus far because it's the realest one to me.
And it's the online mode, so it's ranked. So whoever is.
But is the leaderboard just 0, 0, 0, 0?
Well, I mean, I think there are some really scary people out there, Matt McMuscles.
That can win, even though you've designed the game to be unwinnable.
I mean, there are some people out there who probably want to fill out tax forms. I think
that's true.
There's people who people still play Genshin Impact. I think people can go online and fucking play.
They can play anything.
Yeah, exactly. They can do fucking taxes.
Nice.
So there you go. There's Millennial Micro Games. Thank you, live Lame Design Conference crowd. It's been a pleasure. Your silence truly is deafening. The crowd are going insane, Matt. It's big shoes to fill. Are you ready to blow us away in the conference hall today?
Yes, a very contemporary idea. The game I have today is the opposite of contemporary. This is a action RPG with a lot of cool mechanics. A lot of combat options, a lot of demons to fight. I'm calling it The Final Legend, Mystallion's Vengeance.
This does sound like every action RPG ever already.
It does. And, with the huge amount of people that make lore channels, like, I don't even play Souls games, but I'll make a lore channel on it. People love that shit. So... this could either be this is what I was asking you before, this could either be an old game that someone might just find in a dusty box somewhere for the PS2, or possibly, early gen Xbox 360, PS3, or there could be some brave souls out there that could actually try to make something like I'm going to describe you.
Okay, best of luck, game developers at home.
Yeah, because this is stupid and pointless.
Yeah.
The first thing that the player sees when they start up The Final Legend, Mystallion's Vengeance, is a literary quote, of course, because you have to set the tone. The literary quote. So, "Death is lighter than a feather, duty heavier than a mountain. Fade to black. Swell of orchestral music. So cheesy. Here a tattered sepia-toned image of a mountain range with a castle just vaguely visible through the mist is on the screen. Scrolling text then rolls up from the bottom in a scratchy weathered font. Long ago, in the dour lands of Mistvaliant, a lurking dread was cursed to sleep under the blah 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 blah. Another page. A third page. And thus began their final legend. The screen then disappears, and there's an elaborate but long transition into the logo. The logo being the final legend, the Stallion's Vengeance.
Another
gotcha.
page.
Good.
Another page.
The player, you have to wait for this animation to finish every time before the start screen appears and says, "Start your legend."
Okay, so it's a character, it's an action RPG, and every single time you boot up, you have to watch a long-ass fucking logo animation pop up.
Oh, this isn't long at all. No,
Okay.
this is like 5 minutes.
Okay,
The next thing that's going to happen.
Sorry.
That's
My
so
bad.
once you've started your legend, an expensive-looking CGI intro. If you played Onimusha 3 Demon Siege, it's a very expensive-looking CGI intro from the mid-2000s.
My favorite
that kicks
Onimusha
off.
3 game.
There's demons flapping their wings in front of a silhouette of the moon. You see knights holding swords and gearing up to fight. You see the 4 main protagonists. And one of them is a woman, and a tear comes from her eye and splashes onto the ground. The ground transitions from that pool of water to a pool of blood. You see a forest on fire, and you see your main protagonist, spiky hair, holding a sword, like kind of close to his eye level. And then you see a vague demon presence. He's big and looming, 10 feet tall. He has an axe made out of fire. They then clash.
I'm into it.
Loading screen. A map of the lands of Mistvaliant then fade into the screen. Scrolling text then appears from the bottom, laying out all the various provinces and the lands and all the respective races. We then cut to a bit of text that says, then, one particularly sweltering summer night in the village of Sorrow Dawn. Loading screen.
But I went to uni for writing. Someone did this. I did creative writing at university. I'm pretty sure this is someone's final project.
We then have in-game graphics. In-game character models.
In-game, you say?
In-game. You didn't think it would get there, but we got there.
I believe it. We're in-game.
A small boy is running away from a demon. Your main character, Rune Wolffang, is then shown. He dispatches the demon, and then the screen fades. The cutscene's over. In-game models then return, and they're kind of just standing in idle poses.
Yeah.
Portrait art of each character pops up on either side of the screen, and they have text written. There's no more any voiceovers. Voiceovers are done now. It is voiceless.
We ran out of budget, right?
Ran out of... we'll see.
Okay.
The scrolling text appears about just slowlier than most people can read. Just a little bit slow.
Yeah.
You cannot make this faster.
No.
And you cannot skip it.
You're just left alone with your own thoughts for a little bit too long.
Like, I want to say 3 seconds longer than it really needs to be.
Yeah.
The child character then enlists Rune to help him be his bodyguard until he gets to a relative's cabin just outside the city.
Exciting setup.
Then a spike-like appendage shoots out of Rune's chest.
Oh my god.
There's a demon that has attacked him. The demon then turns to the child, and then Rune gets back up, his eyes burning with flames. Loading screen. In-game, HUD, energy bar, and then there's a power bar at the bottom, and that power bar is labeled Vengeance.
Yeah.
The demon then approaches you. The screen is letterboxed, and then the letterbox goes away. If the demon then hits you, it is game over. Back to the title screen. If you manage to press the X button 3 times, the demon is instantly killed, and we transition finally to a loading screen.
Thank God. I mean, fucking, the people were waiting.
Portrait art then appears as your character talks. This goes on, and each time you get maybe 5, maybe 10 more seconds of gameplay.
Sorry.
Our test here is to see when does someone actually quit and say I'm done. This would be death to any YouTube channel if they picked out this game and said, got it, waiting for it to start. Because me, myself, I've played a couple, even old 16-bit games where it's so overwrought at the start and you never really get to see the gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, there's just 1 or 2 16-bit things, and as you go on in time, I want to say, like, end of the 6th generation, going into the 7th generation of consoles, this was, like, at its height. Nowadays, it's kind of like everyone kind of accepts it. If you're playing a Sony first-party game, you're going to expect, like, a 15-minute long intro and setup, and then it just lets you go.
Yeah.
And this is partially inspired. I referenced Onimusha 3 earlier, but specifically Onimusha 4, which is just called Dawn of Dreams. Mm-hmm. Quite a good game. It shipped on 2 PS2 discs, and that's not because there's some weird gimmick or like a Devil May Cry 2, where it, like they fudged the numbers and said, oh, if we fake it and say you need a whole character for 1 disc, or the swapping scenarios in Resident Evil 2. Like, this is because the game was so long, because it just went on story forever, and it constantly changed ways that the story got across. So this was partially inspired by that, where it was literally CGI intro, then portrait art, then in-game cutscene, back to CGI intro, and it just never stopped bouncing between all of them, and it just drove me bananas. Like, it's, in the YouTube game nowadays, and even with most people's patience, like, you have to get to games a little bit quicker than at all.
The modern attention span.
If someone was to make something that actually plays into that, I would like to spearhead this project. But I'd also like to see if, like, do people quit? Are people's attention spans such that they just, like, no, I can't. Let me move on to something else,
This sounds like the game equivalent of one of those composite images of, like, a bunch of things put together, but they just never make sense. You know what I mean? Like, the textures that no one can ever quite identify that make you really uncomfortable and really uncanny. Oh, there's a bit of hair, there's a bit of someone's dressing gown, there's a bit of wardrobe, there's some water in there. What the fuck am I looking at? You've successfully pitched a game that has the pacing of TV static.
My first idea was a game based on Coronation Street, but I think we've talked about it enough.
Yeah, I think even the Coronation Street stands in the comments, of which I'm sure there are many, are a bit sick of it.
That's Telltale. Telltale presents Coronation Street. That's how you do that.
EastEnders, which is the other UK soap set in the Eastern London, they've got a game. There is an EastEnders video game about a missing pie recipe. So, Telltale, get on that shit. There's untapped. There's space in the market. This bit in your game where the screen is letterboxed and you've got to press X 3 times to defeat your enemy. Is it communicated on screen at all that's what you got to do? Is there an instruction? Is there a time limit? Or are you supposed to just figure it out before you get sent back to the beginning?
It is not communicated, other than the fact that when the letterbox goes up, that means it's time to actually input things on your controller.
Yeah.
But because the attack button is meant to be like X on a PlayStation or A on an Xbox, it's likely the first button you're going to press. So therefore he would attack. And since it only takes 3 hits to kill him, the demon starts off relatively very close to you. There's a high likelihood you're going to pass it with not an issue, but there is a percentage that you might not press that button. And one hit will kill you, and again, send back to the title screen, which is another partial reference to Symphony of the Night, where when you do die in Symphony of the Night, it takes a long time to get back into the game and load your game and all that. But in this, it's a hard boot back, and since gameplay hasn't technically started yet, you have to watch everything all over again. Yeah. You have to. You have to. They put a lot of time.
They did.
They put a lot of time into the. Yeah, exactly.
So get into the lore. Don't wait for Varty Video to fucking explain this shit to you. Do your due diligence and read. This generation, man, they just want to get into the gameplay all the fucking time. They're not willing to watch 5 minutes of beautiful portrait cutscenes and crawling text and various other forms of presentation.
One of my favorite running gags is to take blank and say, what if Vati Vidya had to make a lore video? Like, what? Like, on this week's episode of Coronation Street. And he has to, like, go through all the characters, their motivations. We love that. He needs to do that for, like, an April Fool's video.
Big Chungus has decided that the Adarian Empire must fall. It's a favorite of mine in the Lane Design Conference to force the player into uninteractivity for minutes and minutes on end, and then dangle the carrot in front of them finally, and then just fucking take it away. The series hasn't been around long enough for like a meta to settle, but I've done a game like that a few times, and it's always won. I feel like we're coming onto like the broken strategy right here. Make a game that literally doesn't let you fucking play it, and then lets you play it for a second, and then it fucks you over.
but here's the thing: it's like the presentation has to keep changing, because you're going to get too tired of the one thing. Like if it's just a CGI intro that like just doesn't end, like that's not feasible. That doesn't work, right? Yeah. So it has to move to a different thing, and it has to get just to where the carrot is, and the carrot's yanked away. So I think you get 10 to 15 seconds of more gameplay, like go around a corner and then cutscene, like combat, go around a corner, another cutscene, and you just like it's the only way to make this like work in any sort of realistic sense. I'd
really like it for the transitions to get increasingly ridiculous to the point where eventually we're like Star Wars, whatever one it is. I think Phantom Menace, where the fucking ring opens up around C-3PO's face, the ring wipe. Yeah, start doing shit like that. Start doing like Windows Movie Maker, like star wipes and stuff. You know, be great. What was the name of your game again, Matt?
That would be the. Let me look it up.
It was so memorable.
That would be the Final Legend: Mist Valiant's Vengeance.
There you have it. The Lane Design Conference, Millennial Microgames versus whatever the fuck he just said. Who won? Who's next? You don't decide who's next. I decide who's next. But who won? You do decide by going to the pinned comments of this video and voting via the straw poll in the link. Matt, it's been a pleasure having you on today. Thank you very much. Do you have any last minute plugs or shout outs, or if you want to spread hate to anyone who you really hate, now's your opportunity.
No one right now, but you can look forward to the next couple months. I'm going to be doing a video called What Happened Coronation Street. Mm-hmm. Yes. I have a lot of interviews with the cast and crew, and there's some shit that happened behind the scenes.
There's some gossip. Yeah, I've heard those guys really, sex maniacs, frankly. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us. You can check out Matt at all his associated links that we'll put in the description and stuff. But I'm sure you know him because he's been doing this thing for a long time, and in the realm of bad games, he's practically got a doctorate. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!